So today's topic for our lecture is related to axles. For that purpose, I want to share this screen. So if we see the definitions, an axle is a central shaft for a rotating wheel or gear. We know that shaft support the component or bearings. So in this axle, this is act as a central shaft for rotating wheels or gear. On wheeled vehicles, the axle may be fixed to the wheels, rotating with them, or fixed to the vehicle with the wheels rotating around the axle. Means uh, the axle shaft may be stationary and the wheels are rotating. Bearings or bushings are provided at the mounting points where the axle is supported. Okay, so bushing and bearings are also provided in this axle. Types of axles, three different types of axles are available. Rear axle, which is full floating, semi-floating, three-quarter and floating. These are the types of rear axle. If we see the front axle, then dead front axle and line front axle are also available. Third type of axle becomes stub axle. In this case, Elliott, reverse Elliott, Lemoine, reverse Lemoine. These are the different types of stub axles are available. If we see the front axle, purpose of front axle is to carry the weight. So all the weights which are coming on the vehicle, which is transmitted on the axles. And through that, it is transmitted to the wheels and to the ground. It facilitates the steering. Okay, if we apply the steering, then according to the steering movement, these axles gets move or turn. It absorbs the shocks. Whichever the shocks are coming on the vehicle, that shocks are coming in the axles and that is transmitted towards the springs. It absorbs the torque applied on it due to braking vehicles. Okay, so torque is also take place here and made up of steel drop forging having 0.4% carbon steel or 1.3% nickel steel. So this is the manufacturing process. So drop forging process is used for making the front axle, which is having the material 0.4% carbon steel and 1 to 3% of nickel steel material is used. If we see the diagram of front axle, this is the diagram. So kingpin axis. So here kingpin is provided and here only line is shown and this is known as kingpin axis. So this is the knuckle support, SPG seat. This is the main axle and again here kingpin axis. This is the drop or the distance from the bottom point of the axle towards the axis, horizontal axis. So, and this is the cross section. If we cut this here we see I cross section. Okay, this is the actual view of axle. And this is the kingpin, and if we see the diagram or sketch, so this is the kingpin, this green color portion. This is stub axle, this is beam axle, this is actual diagram of the axle. This is called as track rod. Okay, when the vehicle is in turning motion, then this track rod makes the vehicle stable. Then this is main beam, this is stub axle. Live axle is also there. So live axles are used to transmit the power from gearbox to the front wheels. So live front axle through resemble rear axle, but they are different at the end where the wheels are mounted. If we take the example, Maruti 800 has line front axle. So these are the different components related to the live axle. Dead axle is also provided. Dead axles are those axles which do not rotate. So rotation is not possible in case of dead axle. These axles have sufficient rigidity and strength to take the weight. The ends of front axle are suitably designed to accommodate stub axle. If we see the stub axles are connected to the front axle by kingpins. Front wheels are mounted on stub axles arrangement for steering. Stub axles turns on kingpins. Kingpins is fitted in the front of axle beam I and is located and locked there by a taper cotter pin. Stub axles are of 4 types: Elliott, reverse Elliott, Lamoine, reverse Lamoine. These are the different types of stub axles. If we see the types of front dead axles, so these are the different types: Elliott, reverse Elliott. Okay, sorry, this is the types of stub axles. So these are the diagrams of stub axles. So Elliott, so thrust washer is provided, then kingpin is provided, cotter is available here, front axle, stub axles is available. This is called as Elliott. Reverse Elliott is also available, that is stub axle is there, okay, kingpin, then cotter is provided here, and this is the front axle, and thrust washer is also provided in this case. Then next is Lemoine, the kingpin. If we see the stub axle, here the stub axle is provided, this front axle. Reverse Lemoine also there, this is stub axle, then kingpin and front axle is provided. If we see the diagram, difference is there. Okay, nut and bolt arrangement is provided in this reverse Lemoine case. Semi-floating axle is also there. With a semi-floating axle, the axle shaft both carries the weight and transmit the torque. Okay, so diagram is shown in figure. The wheel is often bolted directly to the flange on the axle. So wheel is directly connected to the flange. Semi-float axles are seen on cars and light-duty trucks. Semi-floats are more limited in capacity, but lighter and cheaper to manufacture. If we see the semi-floating axles, this is the semi-floating axles. So axle casing is there, then taper key is available here, wheel hub is available, and this is the axle shaft. Full floating axle is also available. The weight of the axle is supported by the axle housing, more specifically a bearing spindle attached to the axle housing and a set of bearings in a separate wheel hub. Torque is transmitted by a separate axle shaft that carries no weight. As commonly built, full floaters are considerably heavier but also much stronger. If we see the full floating axle, this is the actual diagram of full floating axle. This is the axle. These are the bolts, brake, lip spring is also shown here. 3/4 floating axle is also available. This type of axle is a combination of full and semi-floating bearing. In this bearing, locating between the axle casing and hub axle shaft, do not have to withstand any shearing or bending action due to the weight of the vehicle, which are taken up by the axle casing through hub and bearing. However, it has to take the end loads and driving torque. A 3/4 floating axle is same as semi-floating with one difference. The outer bearing is moved to the outside of the outer end of the axle tube, supporting hub assembly via the bearing's outer circumference edge. If we see 3/4 floating axle diagram, this is the diagram. Axle shaft is there, then on the outer side, axle casing is provided. On that outer side, the wheel stud is located inside the wheel hub. Wheel hub is provided outside the axle casing. Correct steering angle is there in this diagram. So vehicle taking the left turn, for example. So rear wheels are in the stable condition, but motion takes place at the location B and A in this diagram. So B turns and A turns. So radius, if we consider at B location, the radius is less, and if we consider the radius at A location, this distance is high, so radius is more. In this between, the distance between two wheels becomes A, and these are the two different angles, which makes towards that if we consider this is P point, P and I is the center, so PI, if we take the distance from PI, if we connect the B point and center point and A point and center point, if we make the angle between that BP or AP and this IB and IA, we get theta and phi angles. The conditions for perfect steering, if we consider A is the wheel track, B is the wheelbase, and C is the distance between pivot A and B of the front axle. Now from the triangle IBP, cot theta is equal to BP upon IB. If we see the IBP diagram, so this is I, this is P, and this is I, B, and this is P. So if we take this diagram, then cot theta is equal to BP upon IB according to the trigonometry. So, and from triangle IAP, if we consider IAP, in this case, cot phi is equal to this AP upon IP. So, but if we know here, AP is nothing but AB plus BP. This is the addition of these two distances. So, AB plus BP upon IP is equal to, if we take IP separate, okay, so AB upon IP plus BP upon IP is equal to, we substitute the values. AB is the distance of this A, that is wheel track. We substitute A here. IP is the distance of, that is the B, that is wheelbase. Wheelbase is nothing but distance between center of front axis to, or front axle towards the center of rear axle. So the distance between these two axles are called as wheelbase. So that is indicated with B. So B is substituted here. So C upon B plus this BP upon IP is nothing but cot theta, first case. So we substitute cot theta in place of BP upon IP. So here we take cot theta on the left side. So, or we say all angles we take on the left side. So cot phi minus cot theta is equal to C upon B. This is the fundamental equation for correct steering. If this condition is satisfied, there will be no skidding of the wheels when the vehicle takes a turn. Ackermann's steering mechanism. If we take this diagram, Ackermann's steering mechanism. So this, if we see this, so Ackermann's steering mechanism, that is first diagram is related to outline of mechanism, and second diagram is details of enlarged scale. So if we take this first condition, so in this case, sine alpha plus theta, if we take these two angles, alpha plus theta, plus if we take sine alpha minus pi is equal to 2 times of y is this distance, divided by r. R is the radius, or this distance is r. So 2 sine alpha is the answer. So steering geometry, if we consider, in case of steering geometry, camber is there, then kingpin inclination is there, caster is located, toy in or toy out is there, then combined angle is there, slip angle is there. All this is related to steering geometry. If we see the camber is the tilt of the car wheels from the vertical. If we take the vertical line, from the vertical line, how much that wheel gets tilt, that is called as camber. Camber is positive if the tilt is outward at the top. Amount, that is camber, should not generally exceed 2 degrees. So this is the camber, this is the kingpin. Okay, this is the vertical direction, and left front wheel is shown in this diagram. So if the wheel tilt on outward direction, that is called as positive camber. It is always desirable that tire should roll on the ground vertically so that the wear is uniform. If while running the tire are inclined from the vertical either inwards or outwards, they will wear or more on one side than the other. In case of positive camber, as the vehicle turns, the outside suspension tends to rise on the wheel. When the wheel returns to straight ahead position, the weight of the vehicle presses down on the steering axis, and this helps straighten the wheel. Thus, positive camber aids steering wheel return after completing the turn. Negative camber, on the other hand, negative camber means if the wheel turn inward, then that is called as negative camber. So negative camber, on the other hand, raises the tendency of the wheel to slip sideways during cornering, but also increases the steering effort. Effect of positive and negative camber. If we see in this diagram, weight of the vehicle is applied here. So positive camber angle is shown here, and negative camber angle is shown here. So weight of the vehicle is acting here and intersects near outer wheel bearing. So here scuffing is shown and outer shoulder becomes wear out. So angle of the tire and vertical reference, this is the reference line. So scuffing is there, and inner shoulder wearing takes place in this case. Okay, so these are the different effects. If we see kingpin inclination or steering axis inclination, it is also called a steering axis inclination. Inclination of the kingpin from vertical is called a kingpin inclination or kingpin rake. Kingpin inclination. This is the vertical line. This is the kingpin inclination. So kingpin inclination or steering axis inclination helps the straight ahead recovery thus providing directional stability. When the vehicle takes a turn, the inclination of kingpin causes the vehicle body to move up in a relation to the wheels. So as soon as the steering wheel is left, after the turn is completed, the weight of the vehicle tends to return the wheel to the straight ahead position, about 7 to 8 degrees. If we take combined angles, then this is the steering axis inclination angle, and this is vertical reference, and this is the camber angle. And if we combine both the angles, this is called as included angle. Scrub radius. So this is the wheel center line, negative SAI, and this is wheel tends to toy in, and this is wheel center line, and positive is there SAI, and wheel tends to toy out. Okay, if we see the caster angle, the angle between the kingpin center line or steering axis and the vertical in the plane of the wheel is called caster angle. Okay, the angle between the kingpin center line or steering axis and the vertical in the plane of the wheel is called the caster angle. If the kingpin is, or if the kingpin center line meets the ground at the point ahead of the vertical wheel center line, it is called positive caster. While if it is behind the vertical center line, it is called negative caster. And amount is about 3 degrees of caster gives good results. So positive and negative caster, the front, and this is the again front diagram, the positive and negative caster. These are the figure related to positive and negative caster. So positive caster is there, then toy in position is available, and high steering wheel turning efforts. Toy in, then toy in initially provided generally does not exceed 3 mm. So this is called as toy in, as shown in figure, green color mark. So 3 mm is the toy in provided. So rear wheel drive vehicle, small amount of toy in is provided. This is the toy out, and this is the combined diagram, toy in and toy out. Okay, so this is toy out, vehicle turns outward direction, toy in, that is wheel turns inward direction, and in uppercase wheel turns in outward direction. Okay, so this is toy in and toy out conditions. Slip angle and cornering force. If we consider the slip angle, in this case, this is the alpha, and alpha is shown here as the angle between the direction of heading and direction of travel. Direction of heading and direction of travel. This is the angle alpha. And the lateral force FYA. If we see this diagram, this is the diagram, and this is the horizontal force, or it is also called as lateral force. So lateral force FYA, and that is camber angle of the wheel is 0 in this case, is generated at a tire surface interface and may not be collinear with the applied force at the wheel center. So distance between these two applied forces is called the pneumatic trail. The self-aligning torque is given by the product of the cornering force and the pneumatic trail. The induced self-aligning torque helps the steering wheel return to its original position after a turn. This is so in this way we discuss about the axles. So here we stop our lecture. Thank you.